Okay, everybody, hi, this is Ginger Cook. Good evening. It is 7:30 in Houston, Texas. That's Central Time. Our moderator, John Little, and partner in Ginger Cook Live.Gallery, he is on in Michigan, and so he's over there on East Coast time, and he's the one that can, if you have a question, how this works is we do these live broadcasts is you type in the question, and if we have time in the show, we'll try to answer. Here's my phone, and then then John whispers the question in my ears or something to that effect, and then if we can answer it, we can, and sometimes we'll shelve it for another show. But we're interested in expanding the knowledge of acrylic painting. That's what we do here at Ginger Cook Live on YouTube, and on Monday nights we do anybody's guess what we're going to do. So I'm going to just take away all the suspense and tell you, because some of you saw the post on YouTube that, or rather on Facebook, I did a great post, and this is what we're going to be painting tonight. And what I want to show you is how we're really going to focus on rocks, but we're going to cover a couple things too. So I found this nice kind of photograph of some rocks in kind of a cement wall, kind of rocks, very old, obviously, and the thing with this is that what you have to watch for when you're doing photographs is some things read perfectly well as a photograph. They don't read all as a painting. I see people send me photographs. Somebody sent me a photograph the other day from their vacation and said, "Oh, could we paint this?" Well, it makes a nice photograph. It wouldn't have made a nice painting because there was too much dark area. So much you would have had to change. So I'm just going to show you that even in this, you see how I cleaned up the arch a little bit, because this arch wouldn't have read very well, and no one would have understood this this little rock. And then, so as I was staring at this, I thought, yes, but what could we do? What if, just bear with me, what if, instead of this blue background, which is okay, it's not that hard, what if we put, just forget the people here, what if we put more of a sunset in the background against blue rocks? Don't you think that might be interesting? And I thought, I was looking at that, and that's going to not take us any longer. So what we're going to do, and because now we're talking about, now we've changed the painting. This is a nice painting, and now we're going to go to something spectacular, because what we've done is we've played with the complements. A complement is a color that is opposite itself on the color wheel. Orange is opposite blue. So if we've got some kind of blue tones to these rocks, then a sunset, now this yellow is a little bit too dramatic. We're not going to go anywhere near that dramatic. But if we suggest a slight sunset to our water, I think we'll have a more interesting painting, because we have a little bit of sky coming up here like this. You see that? So I'm going to show you how you might do that, and I think that's kind of cool. Don't just because you see a photograph, just don't take it at face value. See what you can do. How can you expand on the idea? That's what we're going to ask ourselves. So what we want to do first is get out a little. People always say, what kind of paper do you use? I am not using paper. This is an actual tablet by Paramount. It is a real canvas. There's 10 sheets to a tablet. I buy these at Jerry's Artorama. Get these online or in their stores. You just tear one off like this. Okay, see that? And that's real canvas that's been gessoed. And again, I see there's such a misunderstanding of gesso. The purpose of gesso was invented so that when you paint it on fabric, it didn't bleed through. Like if you've ever stained say spilled some coffee on a shirt and found it went through through your shirt and maybe stained an undergarment because it goes right through the fabric. Well, this is what gesso was invented for, so that the paint doesn't go through the fabric. And I mention that because people think that you have to re-gesso something to paint over an acrylic painting. I understand why people do it because it's cheaper, but I prefer, for me, I would rather use an acrylic paint, and just if it's too confusing, just make it a solid color. So that's just one thing. Some people like the clean white surface. It puts their mind at ease again. Let's put out some colors. If you've noticed, people always say, how come she never tells us the colors? Because guess what, you guys, we use the same colors all the time. If you go to my palette, gingercooklive.gallery, it's white, phthalo blue, and then we always do ultramarine blue. Those are the two blues I use. I don't change. Not that there aren't some other lovely blues out there. Oh gosh, let's own the whole art store. I'm for that. But to simplify what I teach you, this isn't like you can't use another blue. It's just that I have to be able to, I talk to, how many thousands of people are watching these, and if we keep it simple, everybody has sort of a shot at doing the lessons, okay? Then if you keep changing colors on people, which I don't like to do. So, but not to say that you couldn't buy a different blue or different yellow. Gosh, you should. Now we're going to use cadmium yellow medium, which is our best yellow. And it's a wonderful color, cadmium yellow medium. And then we're going to use yellow oxide, which is a gold color. All right, and then we're going to use cadmium red medium. Okay, that's our next one. And let's see, what's our next color we're going to be? Oh yeah, we should use burnt umber, which is our dark brown. And I like to write these. If we write these, if I can kind of scoot up and as I do this, as we write these, if you'll write them on your tablet or just with a piece of tape, if you're using a wax paper palette, it'll help you. Okay, so here's burnt umber. We want a little bit of a purple, Dazzling purple, P-U-R-P-L-E. Okay, so we put a little purple. Let's just go with these colors for now and see where we are. Okay, we don't have to. Okay, so that's what we're going to do. I'm going to go for those colors. Now, if you are buying Matisse paint, Matisse is only sold at Jerry's, and there's other acrylics I like just as well. I like Matisse very much. They come from Australia, and in order to protect them, when they're new like this, they're sealed. So you have to take something sharp like a nail or the tip of a palette knife to open them. Okay, and that's because they seal them. They didn't used to when I first started using them, but they do that now. So here's some cad yellow medium. And then you always want to put a little of your a little bit of color on the back of the tube, okay? Like that. Can we do that? A little bit of color on the back of the tube. All right, and now that way, if it's upside down on your table, you know where it is. So that's our cad yellow medium. And somebody said, well, what about these caps that they sort of flip up like this? They've got a cap that will flip up like this. This works kind of, but then once the cap gets acrylic around it, you can't close it again. So it's kind of, for me, it's not too effective. So now we're gonna go with cad red medium, and I want you to know that I've been painting with these colors for years, and these are my favorite colors. I painted with these for years. And acrylic paints are the safest paints to use. They're, for instance, they don't use oil paints in college for a couple of reasons, but they've been in colleges for the most part. When they're doing an art class, they use acrylics. They're odorless. The chemicals that are used to clean the oil paints are, you need good ventilation for oil. You can use acrylics in a small space. They're odorless. They clean up with water. They wash off your hands. And they're really quite marvelous. I mean, I love them, and they dry very quickly. So what you have to do is you have to work with the fact that they dry quickly. That's your task. So let's put a little purple out, and we're going to just discuss this for a minute. You're going to get a little bit of this purple. Now I left the cap off of that, and you can see that didn't work well for me. Okay, so here's some purple. And now when you're thinking about white, I do something a little different with white. Here's phthalo blue. See if you can, if you're not sure about phthalo blue, it's the green shade. Liquitex about 10 years ago decided to do green and red shades of phthalo blue, and then they confused everybody. They did that with their ultramarine blue too. But we want the green shade of phthalo blue, and we want the red shade of ultramarine blue if you're using Liquitex heavy body. Okay, and now we're going to be using, let's get our big tube of white out, which was somewhere. Okay, and I would recommend, even though you see me using little tubes, you're kind of dead in the water if you don't have white. I recommend buying a giant tube of white, just having it. And if you're using student grade acrylics, spend the money for the professional grade white, because it covers so much better. And and I would just suggest, as you change from student grade like from acrylics to advanced acrylics, you know, like golden or Liquitex or Matisse. That's where the red costs more than the white. Okay, red paint costs more than the white. You're using those acrylics. Try to just the colors, just as your budget allows. Just every time you run out of a color, just replace a tube. If you had to go out and buy everything at once, it's about $130. So it's nice to be able to just gradually change, you know, your stuff. Okay, so now here on our, I'm going to just measure down here. We're going to do a couple of things. We're going to put in a horizon line first, and I'm going to go down about three inches from on my 6x8 canvas here. I'm going to go about 3 inches. So if you figure that this is 8 inches, that's, you know, you never want your horizon line directly in the middle, okay, of your picture. And even if it is in the photograph, and it was in this photograph, I want you to see that it was dead set in the middle. You don't want to do that. So you have to sort of change these things. As artists, you just can't follow the photograph blindly. All right, so there's our horizon line like that. All right, say there it is. Now what we want to do in order to create this sunset, we're going to start with the lighter colors first, and I don't want anything too drastic, but I think that would be really nice. So we're going to take a little bit of yellow, cad yellow medium, and a little white, and a tiny bit of cad red medium. Well, that's way too much. Let's start again over here. Don't even touch that anymore. I start again if I get too much, and then add a little of that color in there. See, I move over on the plate to get that color. Now I'm going to come up down here on the baseline of my horizon line here, and I'm going to put this color, and I'm going back and forth like this with these colors here, like that, back and forth. And let's see, I'm going to turn the fan on in the room, John. There we go. It's getting hot under the light, so my fan has to go. Boy, you can see things. I got to get my paperweights down here, hold everything. Okay, so now I've gone down up about 1/4 inch. Now as I come up a little more intently, I will add a little more of this color. Make it a little bit darker, like this. Maybe a little more cad red medium with it. Just kind of on the sides here. Going to do that. Now what am I going to do? All right, I'm going to take some white paint and come above this. I'm going to leave a little kind of, just suggest, if you figure where my arch is going to be, where's our picture here? Where's my arch going to be? My arch is not in the center of this. It's sort of off center. My arch is going to be right about here. So I think I'm going to suggest a little bit of just the glow of the sun right there. And then we'll keep going and just see what we can do here. I'm just going to paint this up here. Now somebody the other day was talking to me, because I teach private lessons in Houston, and my good friend Lorraine says, I don't understand cookie crumbs. What are cookie crumbs? What are you talking about? Well, for those of you who don't understand that, generally our cookie crumb lessons were meant to be very short lessons, and they have evolved over the weeks into I don't know what. You know, I don't know what to tell you. They've evolved. Suddenly we find ourselves doing much longer lessons than John and I originally intended when we came up with the idea of doing cookie crumb lessons. All right, I'm going to come down here a little bit more cad red medium back here into where my water's going to be, like that. Maybe a little bit of yellow. There you go. You can mix right on the canvas here, right over the white. Okay, like that. I'm going to say that that's what all this is going. I don't think I have to go down much further than this, because my arch is going to be right here. Now I will rinse my brush and wipe it off. If you're rinsing, use a rag and wipe it off. And while I'm drawing, I'll answer questions before I dry. If people have a question, John, are there any questions I can answer right now? Well, John says we already have questions. So the question is, they don't have any trouble mixing the colors, they just have trouble picking the colors. But we just went through that. In other words, if you copied a photo blindly, right, you would pick the colors that were in the photo, like I did. Did you see that? So there were some rocks, and then I did a blue sky. And I'm just saying that because complements are colors that are opposite self on the winter. When you're talking about a painting with impact, okay? You want impact. You want to make sure that somewhere in there you've used complementary colors. Not every one, but pick a set. Red and green is a complement. Purple and yellow is a complement, okay? So pick something, okay? So you notice I'm blending in a little yellow in here like that. And I'm going to just put some lighter yellow and white like this in here right on top of that, okay? Now, that's all I'm going to do with this. That's the trick. You know, how do you do it? Now, here's the deal. I need to go up and do a kind of a blue-orange sky up here, all right? Now, this is wet, so the problem is I can't do that if it's wet. So we're going to dry this real quick, just this part, and then we'll keep going, okay? So I'm going to count to 3, and we're going to dry. 1, 2, 3. I'm going to dry this right here. Need to dry it very much, but you've got to keep in mind you've got warm and cool colors. I'm going to start with a clean brush, no orange on it. I'm going to take a little white. It's going to be 99.9% white and a tiny bit of ultramarine blue like that. Very little ultramarine blue, maybe just a drop of phthalo, okay? And now this is going to be my upper sky up here like this. I'm going to come back over on top of this and make sure I have plenty of white with this. And I want this sort of pale sky up here. And I can go over the orange because the orange is dry. If I went over the orange and this was wet, what would happen? Well, it would turn brown. It would just look awful. So the biggest problem I think is that people just don't dry when they're supposed to. You've got to know when you have to dry the colors. And I'm not doing this very thick. We're doing this pretty easy. And even still with these colors, that orange is just barely dry. If I push too hard, it's not that dry. All right. So I'm going to say that that's my sky. Now I want to come back on top of that maybe and make it. I think even though it's not in the photograph. See, if you get so caught up on the photograph, you miss the boat here. So we're going to just come up here and we're going to darken the sky up a little bit up on top for a little contrast. Because when your painting is slightly darker up on top, what happens is that you force the eye down. Okay, so the darker color here. So I'm going to come across here and force the eye down a little bit onto this. And then I want to say that we dried this. I want to go ahead and take some ultramarine blue and a little Dazzling purple. Just try a little of that first. And a little bit of white. And let's see, a little bit more ultramarine blue. Okay, and a tiny bit of cad red medium and darken that just a hair. All right, and I'm going to come in here like this, and I want to put in sort of this ocean color. That's a little too purple. Let's take a little bit more white and cad red medium to it and make it almost a gray color. Because then we're going to go over here with some lighter highlights. I want to just say my ocean is coming this way, and I don't know how much of this is going to show up in my arch, but I guess we can plan for it to be this way. Now let's take a little phthalo blue and white. Now see, I haven't dried anything. Then I'm going to go right on top of that and leave some of that purple showing. And I'm going to say that down about, let's see, how far down do I have to go on this? How far down do I have to go with my arch? About 5.5 inches. I have to take my ocean down about this far. Okay, so I'm going to say that my ocean's coming down this far, like that, on both sides. Okay. So, and again, most of this is going to be covered up with rock. I'm just kind of showing you how you might go about doing this. Now I'm going to do the phthalo blue and white, and you can see where I'm coming across here like this, maybe across here like this. You can't put orange and yellow only like to paint over white. And I tell you what, I get a lot of questions on different types of paint and you know what kind of paint to use. And somebody from Australia wrote and they said they use a certain brand of paint. I'd never heard of it, you know. And I know that there's paints you can buy in other countries that maybe we don't have access to in the United States. But acrylics have been around since the 1960. And well, probably about 1955, but 1960 they started to be sold to the general public. Now, okay, so you see, here's my Here's what I've got so far. So they're really, they've refined these paints. These are not the paints that that I bought when I first started painting with acrylics. They have changed these tremendously, and they've made such improvements to the paint. Now I've got sort of little tiny light. I'm going to just put some blue across here very gently, little tiny streaks of blue into the water. Now I have to come down pretty far like this, so probably I need to bring the orange down to here. So let's take another minute. I'll answer one more question before I dry something, John. Okay? So the question is, how do you make water look like it's level and not running downhill? Well, keep it level. That's easy. Keep it level. If your brush strokes have to be parallel to the top and bottom of your canvas. If they're not, the water will look, so I'm just going back and forth. It's not running downhill. In fact, I like to talk about this. You'll hear me say this. Let me dry this and I'll tell you a good story here. Hang on. Art is a language, just like Spanish or English or Russian. It's a language, and it was the first language really that was ever written, and it's drawn. It's a written language, and it has grammar, just like any other language. It has grammar, and the hardest thing, for instance, if you were speak English and you wanted to learn French, did you know there's over 4,000 words in English and French that are the same? Oh, so I'm making this orange here. Do you see that? 4,000. Over 4,000. Words that are the same. Vacation, vacation. Okay? So that's all very well and good. It's nice to know those words, but that wouldn't get you far in the country without a few of the connecting stuff, right? Wouldn't you say so? You'd have to have some of the connecting words, the verbs, the adjectives, those kinds of things, right? Just having a few nouns or whatever, that isn't going to help you. Okay? A little bit, but not enough. All right. Now I'm going to come back up here with my clouds here, and going to exaggerate my clouds now up here in my sky. Now this has had a chance to dry. I want you to just, as long as we're doing this, I just thought it would be sort of nice. Now we're doing the second coat. See, I'm just saying I've got some clouds up here. Everything's kind of going back and forth like that. This is just CAD Red Medium. So if art is a language and it has a grammar, the direction of your brushstrokes, the direction of your brushstrokes is the grammar behind your art. So in other words, if you did a painting in black and white, the only way anybody would know what it was, if you didn't have any color, was the direction of your pencil or your brushstrokes. I mean, that's just, how else would they know? Well, they just couldn't. Okay, so. So if you know that, then water is always back and forth, and waterfalls are up and down. It's just the way it is. You just have to. You always are looking when you're painting something. You always are looking to see if for one thing, quit making the stuff up. Go find a reference photo. Monet, Renoir, Cezanne, those guys, they were not making stuff up as they went. They had set up still lifes. They set up people, and they had there's one a picture of I think it's Matisse, and he's got these guys on a boat, and they're all having this, looks like a really good time on this boat, drinking wine, men and women, and having this party, maybe it's beer or something, having a great time. He set that up, and he sat there and he did sketches from people in real life. He didn't just sit down with a sketchbook and make up a painting. Okay, and the same thing. So if you look at a photograph, it'll tell you which way the lines have to go. The problem with water is photographs don't photograph water right. It's like it's moving water. They just don't. I've got a new picture, which is kind of a cool one. I can show you. Here's a new painting that's coming up for our members for the Wave and Water class this month. I just finished filming it, so it may be a day or two getting up late, and I'm sorry. But you notice we have water coming down, and then the water's level, and then we have water coming down, the water's level, and we're in the fall, okay? And that's for our wave and water class. This is exactly what I'm talking about. And now look at the warm and cool colors that we've talked, the blue and the oranges and the reds, okay? So that's our wave and water class, and that's what we call a master class. And again, we're talking about that. Okay, so now, all right, so I think we're pretty good on the sunset. I don't want to spend a long time on this. I just wanted you to see the contrast between the two pictures if we did one with the sunset, and that where the best thing I can tell you is that I can basically, if you follow kind of instructions, you can learn to paint. What we can't teach you is a good idea. We can't teach you imagination, we can't teach you a good idea, but we can sure teach you to paint. And if you come over to gingercooklive.gallery, where we start you off on the basics and really go 1, 2, 3, and you learn all the blending techniques, and you keep building up to these more advanced painting techniques, I mean, you'd be amazed. It can just take years off your painting experience of how long it's going to take you to paint something. Okay, so let's just put some light in here now too. I'm going to say this is shining on the water. Do you see how I'm layering this all in? Okay, this was too blurry, but you can kind of see where I'm layering it all in. Alright, so now we're going to, and I think I like these clouds pretty much, these purple ones. One more question, John, before I dry it. Someone wanted to know if you could use paper or mixed media pad that was a paper. Yeah, you can, because these are practice sheets. The reason we're doing these little is so that you don't waste your paint learning how to do it. You can just take a watercolor paper, and one of the things you can do is you can take a little bit of medium and varnish, and tape the paper down. A little bit of medium and varnish here. Put a little bit of this purple in here, and you can let that dry, and then you can paint right over paper. But the paper tablets that they say they're for acrylics, then they've designed them for acrylics. You absolutely can. You just have to be careful not to get too much water on stuff like this. See, I'm putting a little purple up here in the up in the clouds here. As long as I'm doing it, just something like this. I don't know how much of this will even show through my rocks, but there you go. We're going to just say that's there, and I'll put a little bit of that in my water here too. Okay, alright, we're going to stop and dry, and then we're going to go ahead and I'm showing you how we're going to put that other thing in. Alright, 1, 2, 3. So we've got a cute little sunset here, right? And so I'm going to get my triangle out, which is right over here. Alright, so then I'm going to say, let's just make some measurements real quick. I'll take some measurements, put all this stuff away. Here we go, this is fun. So while I'm measuring, John, I guess I can answer some questions. Okay, well that's good enough. Next one. Next question. That's a good question. Somebody noticed that I don't use a lot of water, which is true. I don't, and because I paint with an oil painting style, and I'm not using a basic. First off, I'm not using student grade acrylics. Let's see, I need 3.5 inches here, and how much is that going to take away from my sunset? That's going to take too much away from it. I'm going to come over here about. We're gonna do a. Let's see, how far over do I want my arch? Let me just think about this for a minute. 1 and a. What's 1 3/4 inches? Yeah, okay. 1 3/4 inches. That'll work for me. right about there. Let's see, trying to different. Where's Fred? What happened to Fred's pencil? It was Mark, right? Where's Mark's pencil? Mark had a pencil when we started. You all saw it, right? Okay, here. All right, so we're gonna go. I'm gonna go 1 3/4 inches right here. Is where I want this, and I'm gonna come up about. This starts about 1 1/4 inches down from the top is where this arch starts. So yeah, you can paint. Gosh, you know, you can. What I love about acrylics is you can paint on a piece of tin. It doesn't really matter what you paint on, and you can paint over. You could take a, for instance, if you're just talking about learning to do some of these things, you know, some of this, these paintings just for the technique. Now we're going up 2.5 inches from the bottom, which is just lucky for me because this is where this all stops. Now I'm going to just take my triangle. Do you guys know how to use a triangle? You just, you line up the bottom part. That's why we like clear plastic ones. You line the bottom part up with the level part of, you know, the level part of your canvas and come right up here like this. And then you can do that. See? That's how far up we're going to come. That's our arch. And then I'm going to just say that it's, how wide is our arch? Our arch is at its widest point. Well, because it has a thing about, yeah, 2.5 inches wide. Okay, we're going to say it's 2.5 inches wide. So I know that now. Okay, so I don't even have to mark anywhere. Just have to give myself 2.5 inches. Hey, I did that pretty well with the, see, the triangle's lined up basically down here. So now I know this is straight. I'm coming up here like that, saying there's this part of the triangle. Then I'm going to go ahead and make an arch. Just draw an arch up here like this. Like this, and then I'm going to say it's going to, let's see, how wide is our arch here? Let's go a little bit from the bottom of the arch up to the top is what, 4.5? Yeah, right about here. Okay, so this is the inside part. We're going to say what we've got. Let me just do it with some chalk here. Here's the inside part of our arch right here. That's going to come on the inside, and it's going to come down this way. So let's see, with new chalk, John, new chalk. Here, I need something you can see. Here we go. Here we go. It's going to come around like this. That's going to be the stone part right here. Going to come up here like this, and this will be a little bit bigger, like that. And then we've got right about here, which is, that doesn't help you. Here is no help. I understand. 2.5 inches down on this side, which is about there. I'm going to say this is where the stone wall starts, like this, okay? And this is where the stone wall starts here, okay? And that's about 3 inches over. Here's the top of this rock face right here, which is coming this way, because this was a lesson kind of about how to draw rocks, okay? Here's our arch. It's coming this way, down at the bottom. Now, you're going, why did you do all that? Well, because all of this is dark. This is what we saved, and all the rest of this is dark. So you're going, what do you mean dark? Well, I mean dark. I'm talking about when you're painting rocks, you're going to start with the darkest color first, and what we're going to start with are these dark rocks. And so we're going to get we had to do the background first. That's acrylics. Now we're doing the dark. So how do we make a dark color? Well, we're going to take burnt umber, which we never put out. Did anybody else? Nobody called me on that either. No one said, hey, she didn't put the burnt umber out. I didn't see any burnt umber. Somebody mentioned that, and I just didn't see it. Okay, here's the burnt umber. Okay, so you had another question, John? What was the water question? Okay, why do I... Oh yeah, why don't I use water and everybody else does? Well, because we're doing oil painting method of painting. We're not doing watercolor, and so we're just basically we want just enough water to keep the brush damp and from drying out. But we don't use water because we're doing the oil painting method of painting. You know, this is the oil painting method. This is, you know, when we're done. So I'm taking burnt umber and all, and really absolutely no reason in the world to use any water. Now here's burnt umber, a little bit of ultramarine blue, a little bit of purple. And now that's my darkest color, by the way. I'm coming around here. I'm covering up my beautiful sky, and you're going, yeah, but that looked kind of nice, Ginger. Yeah, I know. This is See what I'm talking about when I say, now did I have to gesso over this to paint this dark color? No. Just no. Look, it painted right over. See that? Just imagine this was some painting that you just hated and you just needed to do it again, right? And we're going to come under here. And we're going to come under here like this. And we're saying this is this side of this. Now, look what's left. Look what's going to be left of this. And you see, notice I'm scooping up a glob of paint and putting it on here. Now you tell me, isn't this looking better already than the one I did just following the photograph? Okay? And then you take the paint and you spread it around like it's peanut butter on toast. And just keep moving it around a little bit here, a little bit of burnt. That's it. This is my darkest color. If I'm doing rocks, I start with the darkest color first. That is such a trick. And this rock wall is a little jaggedy, so I'm going to come up here like that so it's not perfectly straight. Now, I want you to already see what we've got compared to this. What's more dramatic to you? Huh? And why does that work? It works because, again, we get down to the colors. What colors? Orange is the complement of blue. Okay, and we're going to have some blue tones to these rocks. And so far, what we're doing pretty good, right? So here's this dark color that we've put on here. We don't, I'm not a firm believer, we use water for glazes. Acrylic paint is not watercolor, though you can use it like watercolor. You can use it as exactly like watercolor on paper, but if you want it to stick to canvas, it has to have, you lose its binding ability if you use too much water with it too. Again, this is, everybody paints differently. Oil painters, some oil painters thin their oil paint way down, you know, with the linseed oil and varnish and stuff, and I don't do that either. So this is how we're going to paint that. And already I'm liking this so much better, aren't you, John? Isn't that interesting? Though this was pretty. I'm not saying anything wrong with this. Now here's where people sort of, oh, wait, we have to do something else here. Well, we're going to take our dark color here now. And now what happened here? So we're coming up here on the side, and we're going to say that here's our stone arch. It's going to come over here like this, above this. It's going to come out here, hit the outside of this rock, like this. And that brush is way too big now. Now I need a small little angle brush. Let me find one real quick here. I need a small little angle brush because now we're getting into something where I need a shape. So I think what we're going to do, John, is just dry this, and then I'll do the top part of that. Okay. So last question before I dry. No, just before I'm drying. Okay. The question is there ever a situation where you paint light before dark? Yes, portraits. Okay, ready? Okay, and then the other, but you'll notice that you paint the farthest thing first. So do you remember the farthest thing in this was this orange? So I painted that first, and then I put the dark clouds over it. It depends on, you layer it. You're not painting all dark and all light. You know, you didn't start with these dark clouds and paint the light behind them. You're painting with the farthest thing away and coming forward. Okay, that's what you're doing. Though there was an artist, you can look him up, very famous in the 20s, 1920s, during the flapper era, and his name was Lord Leighton. He painted, you may be familiar with one of his pictures. It's called Flaming June, and it's this lady kind of lounging on a couch. He painted kind of like historical pictures of old Romans. All right. So anyway, he painted from light to, and he was an oil painter, and he painted from light to dark. That's how he did all his pictures, from light to dark. But he did an awful lot of people. Okay, so I mean that there was something to be said for that too. Okay, so I'm just going to come around here like this and bring this a little closer to our, bring out our rocks a little bit here on the side, and we'll fill those in a minute. Some of these are going to be, there's a shadow in here too, which we have to account for on the inside of this. So I'm kind of coming in a little bit more than I would normally too. Alright, so this is what I've got so far with these, but we have to come out a little bit here, I think. Out, just imagine this is a little wider, coming up like this. Make the corrections. Like that. And I'll bring it up a little bit up here too. I'm using just kind of a dark purple. Okay, so there's my arch, there's my sunset. I'm already loving this much better. Okay, so now what do you do? This is all dry. So, changing brushes again. So again, it's the more you do this, the easier it will become. But if you're painting a rock with a bunch of colors, you know, or bricks or whatever, you just start with the dark stuff. Okay, so what do I know for sure? I know that, for instance, this is going to be my rocks up here like this. You know, there's my bricks here. I'm going to have some sort of, I'm going to have some rocks in here like this, coming down on the side. This is going to get, there's going to be a light highlight here somewhere. I'm going to come along here, and I'm just, you can sketch in a few rocks. Try not to get them all the same shape. Got some this way. Just basically saying, alright, so just generally gave myself a little bit of a pattern to follow. I don't need much. Okay, let's go forward. Okay, so I've kind of sketched on something. Now I'm going to start with maybe a brown, phthalo blue, and white, and mix that together like that. Make this sort of gray color like this, kind of a gray color. Wipe off the paint like this. I'm going to start on this rock like this, and using just the side of my brush, and this is what we call dry brushing. I'm going to start putting the first tones on this rock like that. I want to leave some of the dark toward the bottom. Light's coming kind of from this direction, from the sunset. We've changed the light source a little bit, but not that dramatically. Okay, so here's my paint. I'm going to come back up here, and then I'm going to say up in this area there's going to be these sort of blue colored rocks, and I don't have to have the detail on every rock. That's still wet, so I can't do anything with that, but I can say that right in here there's going to be a rock. I want you to see how I'm doing this, and this takes a little patience, alright, because basically what you're saying is you want to leave the grout lines between the rocks. You don't want to, you know, just paint the whole thing blue, which we're not doing, which is why I did a little bit of chalk, so to sort of outline it in there. You have to be careful not to make the same shapes. That's real important. You just, you know, there's a tendency to want to make, if you like a cantaloupe shape, then you want to keep making those, and you can barely see what I'm doing. Now I'm going to come up here, and I'm going to lighten this up just a hair. Let's just lighten a few now, but just look what happens. I'm lightening up this rock here, in here a little bit. Wipe off the excess paint. Use the side of my brush. I'll let the canvas be rough. The advantage of painting on canvas, and the reason I paint on canvas and not paper, is because canvas has got a little rough tooth to it. So there's a little tooth to this. It's a little rougher, though some paper does have tooth. And so what happens is that your brush will skip over some of it and leave some of the dark automatically. We'll want to leave that, all right? So here we go. We're just going to start lightening up a few things. I know I want a little bit lighter under here, a little bit like this. It's going to be a little bit lighter up here like this. And I'm just flattening this rock out, creating a plane. Let's get rid of the now I've got a new rock coming here. They're going to be lighter on the tops, and as they get down toward the bottom and the sides, they're going to be darker. So I'm going to say I've got one here like that. See how I'm starting to create the rocks? Build the rock wall. And you do this one layer at a time. And let's see, is this still wet? Maybe I can get away with it. It helps me if I come up here like this and say, here's this rock up here like this above the arch. And I'll do another one, leave a little bit of a grout line. I need to dry that purple real quick. John, just give me a second. Let me dry that real quick. This is not working. All right. 1, 2, 3. If your paint's wet, this doesn't work at all. Guess what? So, and remember, we're using acrylics like oil paints. We're not using acrylics like watercolors. Okay, so, and you know, somebody said the other day, well, what if you're going outside? I'll tell you what, all bets are off when you go outside. If you're going outside painting in Arizona, you're going to have a different experience than if you're painting in Texas in the humid summer, or you're going over to France where it's hot, okay? I mean, this is my problem with painting outside is that, you know, sometimes you need to use more water, sometimes you don't. It's very hard to gauge, depending on the humidity, how fast your paints are drying out. Maybe you want a squirter bottle. Okay, we're still going into the blues, and we're putting a little brown in the blue to, in the phthalo blue, we're putting a little brown to gray it. So it's sort of a gray blue, all right? We're still in these gray colors, okay, like that. Still in the gray color. And if you have to, pinch your brush. So this is a dry brush technique. Try this sometime. We did that a little bit, like last week we did a little of that, if you recall, when we were doing the, that picture. We did a little bit of a dry brush technique. That's actually too much paint I put on there. I can make that work. I'm going to expand this a little bit like that. See how I'm expanding this little wall here, and I'm going to come up here and expand this like that. And already I'm liking this. So okay, so remember I'm saying that for whatever reason it's a little lighter here on this side than here. So, though I changed the light source in the picture, so it may not totally be correct anymore, but we're doing it anyway. So I like it. Okay, so I'm just starting to put my rocks in, and basically what I'm doing, wipe off a little paint, is that by you know, showing where I want the highlights, okay, where do I want the highlights on the top of the rocks, then I can define where my rocks are a little bit, and then I can add more color to them, okay? Because we haven't gone into the warm colors. We've been staying, well, we have, but this is sort of your, well, it's cool blues, really. That's what we're doing so far, kind of grays and blues. We're saying that there's our rock wall, and you can almost climb on this. I made it so that it almost looks like you could climb up here and maybe sit up here and look out this little window, which is kind of a neat thing. So I hope everybody's enjoying the Village series. You guys, if you haven't painted the hotel, it's on YouTube, our hotel picture. I've created a whole village for this, and we have 5 pictures so far in our village. We've got the hotel, and I'll show you those in a minute. We've got the hotel, the flower shop, the hat shop, the let's see, oh yeah, the ballet studio. I love the ballet studio. And let's see, on the music shop, right? Where is that? I'm sorry, I'm digressing. Now, this is what confused Lorraine Speaks. She says, I'm in the busy focusing on rocks, and you keep changing the subject. This is what we do on Ginger Cookie Crumb lessons here, is that we change the subject on you all the time. We answer questions, we change the subject. We're going to show you eventually how to get these rocks painted, and I'm sorry if it gets a little disconcerting, and I don't want you to feel discombobulated here, like that word. But we are going to show you some stuff as we go. So you can see how we're starting to we have to lay this in a little bit, right? Now, rather than put a hairdryer on that, I'm going to let that sit for a second. And I'm going to show you, I'm just going to show you what we're doing. Let me move this one out of the way. And here, I'll just, that's what does me in, is when the paper gets paint all over it. I hate that. So here, let's do this. There, okay, so I'm going to zoom out a little bit so you can see what we've got here. See how this is coming along with our sunset and our rock wall, by the way? And, you know, these are techniques. Now, look, in the music shop, we're using the same techniques to do the brick, okay, that I'm showing you here. We're going to do that on the brick, for instance. And when you're talking about in the flower shop, some of this sort of is dry brush. This is called dry brushing. It's dry brush on the street, okay, which is different than the way we painted the awnings. That's the flower shop, and these are fun. Everybody saw the hotel. That's up on YouTube, and then here's our ballet studio, which I love. And so if you imagine that you've got these let's see, we've got the I think I showed you the music shop. Here's our hat shop, okay, like that. So what we want you to do is, and I'm going to suggest it heartily, is you buy these wide 6x8 canvases. We've got links on our website to stores that carry this, and then they're like little pieces of sculpture, and you use gels and mediums to get the flowers thicker, and then you start customizing the hotels with your own stuffs. Jazzy called it Jazzies, you know. That's her nickname for Facebook. She called it Jazzies instead of hotel. I mean, you make a whole village. It's called a European village. You make the whole village, and you get a little clever with the names, and you start collecting these, and you can find these at gingercooklive.gallery. So John's been putting the name up on the top of our screen up there. That's our website, gingercooklive.gallery, and I think we're up to almost 170 lessons that you can find on our gallery that are included in our monthly subscription price, starting at 9 days for $9.95. So that's my commercial. I'm sorry, I'm adding it in there. All right, so we've got this. Now what? Okay, so now we've got to start adding some more color to these rocks. It's okay. You could almost leave it like this and make it really a dark sunset and make this about that, but we want to have it lighter in here. So let's do that. Let's take a little white and a little gold color, maybe. Like the gold would be the yellow oxide. And I'm going to just come in here like this, and I want to just say that the inside, I want this a little bit lighter here on the inside of our rock wall. Going to have it a little bit lighter like that, and it's going to come up like this. I'm going to bring this up around here like this, up to the top. It's a little lighter, so if I'm saying that happened, then maybe it's a little bit lighter on these rocks here that are kind of coming down into that. Now if you've had your brush in water, which you kind of, you know, probably did at some point, make sure that that terry cloth paper towel has really dried it off. Now look what's happening to our highlights now on the rocks. See how we're changing that? Saying that there's our highlights coming up here like this. It's all subtle stuff, and then here's we're getting lighter as we go up like that. And then if I'm doing that, then I'm going to say it's going to get lighter up at the top of here, come around here like that, and I'm still in the yellow oxide and white. Really is kind of where I am, but mostly white with a little yellow oxide. And then I want to say that down here on this ledge, maybe it's brighter. Okay, and again we haven't put, now I've kind of warmed the color up a bit like that. And let's see, let's come across our ledge like this. Just dry brushing it on, wipe off some of the paint, so that what happens is that you get enough paint on here and your brush starts to skip over this. Did you guys ever do any temple rubbings? People are going, what are temple rubbings? Okay, so if you ever get a chance to go to Thailand or someplace like that, they have these stone reliefs outside of the temples, and they let you take chalk and a piece of paper, and you rub the chalk over the image, and it leaves an outline of that image on the paper. Okay, so here's my gold now coming. See what's happening here? See how my gold's coming up here like this? My gold highlight. Oh, John says that you can do that in a cemetery too. Some people do that. They call them temple rubbings. You know, I'd never heard of that, but years ago, before Cinnamon was born, I took a trip to Thailand, and it was a 6-week tour of Asia. I went to Hong Kong and Thailand and Singapore, and when we got to Thailand, that was the main. The guide thought we'd all want to go do temple rubbings, and I was an artist even back then, and I was going, temple rubbings, what an extraordinary idea. I never heard of that. But okay, so I'm going to start lightening up this here like this. Come across here. Question? Yeah. The question is, how come some colors are more glossy than others in the same paint brand? Well, I don't know what brand you're speaking about. So, of course, they have metallic colors you can buy. All right, I'm adding more gold here, you guys. I want you to see that. I'm starting to put more gold on the rocks here as we go. you know, how do you make a color? How does paint come about? How do you make paint? I think you've got to start with that. Let's let's make a little orange color here now. I think we need some orange. I'm going to brighten this color up a bit here. I'm going to start bringing in some of my sunset colors. How do you make paint? Where does the paint come from? It's a pigment. These are powders and pigments that go into it, and then you're talking about polymer is the binder for acrylics that puts it together. So some brands depends on fillers and stuff they put in. It will depend a lot on that. It will depend on the fillers that they put in their pictures, you know, in their paint, and that's why less expensive brands of paint. You know, there are some brands of paint you can buy that that you can't mix the colors because they want you to buy all the brands, and you know, they want you to buy everything. So they deliberately make their paints where if you try to mix them, you don't get the same colors. Shocking. I know, shocking. Shocking. Okay. Now look, I'm saying the lights kind of. I'm going to say that lights. I'm going to put a few little highlights on these rocks up here like this. Get a little bit bolder here, up here, barely touch it. Probably a little too soon for that. But I wanted you to see how that might go. Let's just say it's kind of coming back in this way. Actually, I have changed the light source a lot on this picture, but that's okay. It's not going to, it wouldn't come down very far. All right. And maybe catch a little bit up, you know, might exaggerate that a little bit. Okay, so now what? That was just a cad red medium and cad yellow medium, and well, nothing else. That was just your orange. Okay, so now I'm going to make a little green color. I'm going to take ultramarine blue and yellow and a little yellow oxide and make a green color. And I'm going to add a little green to these rocks because this is the beach. And I'm going to say that there's a green tint to these rocks. I'm going to kind of dry brush over some of this, start adding some colors. Okay, just particularly up here. And I want to say I don't know, if you know how moss kind of grows up on rocks like that. I'm going to say particularly on this side that there's some green. Now if I want it a little bit darker, I'll add a tiny bit of purple to that. I want it less bright. How do you make purple, red, and blue? So that's sort of toning that down, and I might say that there's some darker stuff in there. I'm going to come down here like that. This is sort of tone that down a little bit. Now let's start pulling our rocks up. Okay, like this. Now I'm going to go back to the blue and white, and maybe ultramarine blue and white and phthalo. Okay, and I'm going to start lightening up these rocks on this side because we've changed the picture now. I want you to see that we've changed the picture, so now we've got to change the colors. Does that make sense? We've changed the picture, so now we've got to change the colors too because we've said this is a sunset. So now I'm going to start adding some more blue to some of these rocks in here like that. Maybe make some, if I want to do a highlight up here, maybe it's bluer. Okay, and you know, basically if I do a painting ahead of time, I generally try to stick to it. But I think seeing how you can change something is kind of cool. Now, because this is a very busy picture with all these rocks, you don't want it to say too much. What I mean by that is, in other words, this is your center of interest. We haven't put the island back there yet, okay? But basically, we're saying these rocks, we're suggesting rocks here without painting every one. We're suggesting some sort of rock wall like that. We'll have enough highlights and lowlights on the rocks to suggest that's what's happening here. And then what we want to do is focus. In other words, we don't want our eye jumping all over the picture, so we're going to focus more on the rock, you know, on what's inside here. So let's just take a bit of dark color here, ultramarine blue and cad red medium, and I want to just kind of go around our rocks here like that. Maybe I'll add a little bit of this red color to there. Now I want to say that there's a darker edge here to this that I'm showing. I'm going to put that in here on the inside. There's like this little ledge, and I'm using cad red medium and ultramarine blue. And I'm going to just make this darker right here. I have to change this slightly because of what we said was happening with the arch. Okay, so I'm saying that there's that. Let's come around here with a little purple here. Let's make this darker. And it's going to be darker up here at the top underneath. Okay, so we're saying that that happened there. And then, all right, there we go. I'm saying, there we go. Now, made that a little bit darker. See, in this picture it was lighter, but we can't really have that because of we're saying the light's coming back this way. In this other picture, the light was kind of coming this way, and in this one it's coming from the back, so that we've kind of changed it just a titch. I'm kind of making this up as we go, but it's sort of fun. I like the idea of not having the same thing all the time. I have to tell you that. I really like that idea. And if I'm looking at this going, remember, wherever there's a light, there's a dark, I might come back here with a little bit of the sunset in the sky and even bring it up a little further. Like that. Maybe I'll bring it up a little further like that. Or let's make sure. I like that a lot, where we have the sky up a little bit darker. Maybe I'll put a cloud like up in here. See, we have some clouds here. Maybe I'll put a little darker cloud right here, like that. Okay. So, but basically what I'm showing you when you're painting these rocks, what I'm trying to show you is how you would just, you keep layering. I probably spent a good hour. What is it? It's already 8:30 now. We started, what time did we start? 7:30? It takes time to do this. This isn't a fast process. People think you can just bop through there, and you can't. Now you see, notice I'm rinsing my brush. Now I'm deciding I'm going to go some more warm colors here. Maybe I'm going to come up here with there. I'm going to lighten this up right there. Another little light color right there. I'm going to start exaggerating. We're going to start chasing the light. Chasing the light on those rocks. And we're going to say it's going there. Then maybe here. Let's take a little cad red medium here on the outside of these rocks right here like this. And bring that in. Okay, something like that. Maybe we'll say there's a little bit of red there, and let's see if I like that. Okay, and then anything else, if I'm saying anything else, that's the warm light. This is the warm light. So if I want cool light, the rest of the light, that's my warm light. The rest of the light would be maybe either blue or purple, or a combination of that, and white. And that would be my lighter color. Let's see, am I out of white? Almost, but alright. So you see I put the paint on the brush, wipe it off. Pinch it off. Now I'm going to come up here. Let's see, I want this more purple. I'm going to come up here with some purple colors. I can have some lights on these rocks. I mean, it's not totally dark yet. I can have some lights on these rocks, but they're not going to be the warm lights over here and the cool lights over there. Let me put some more white out. So I'll answer some more questions, John, when I'm painting this in. You can kind of just see what I'm doing. You still there, John? Any more questions? Okay, so somebody says they do pretty good if they're copying somebody else, but then they want to create something again. What we're talking about is you can teach technique, you can't teach a good idea. Because now you're talking about imagination, what inspires you, what do you want to say. It's like telling a story. It's like we can all read books, but there are people that write them, and they come up with these stories, and other people don't. So in other words, so how do you become a storyteller when you're writing your own picture? For one thing, you need a reference. So you either have to go out and take your own photos or find some that you like. Now a good source for that is Paint My Photo, PMP-art, the word art.com, and you can join that. There's probably about 8,000 to 10,000 photos on there that you can look at. But again, I caution you, and I get a lot of, for instance, I got this original photo from there. I think, where did we put it? Good grief, where did we put the stupid photo? Where is it? Well, we had the photo here tonight. Did we all saw it? Ah, here it is. Okay. Well, I saw it. All right. Now there's the original photo. I want to say that there's a big difference between this and this. Okay. We changed this a lot, but we use this as a reference thing. We use this as a guide to decide how we wanted to do it. Okay. That's the key. I used this. How did I, and so that was the inspiration. And then I did it one time, and it was okay. I liked it, but not well enough. I wanted to expand on it, so then I went further. So you've got to, if you understand, you have to be able to draw what you have to be able to draw what you think. How's that? Okay, you've got to be able to draw what you think, and to paint that in, and that comes, and you learn the techniques first, because it's like playing the piano. If somebody just said, I think you should be a musician, you should take up music, and by the way, this is what music sounds like. Now you should start composing when you don't know how to do the chords. Because if you can't do the chords, how are you going to compose the music? Does that make sense? So, how are you going to do that? So the question then needs to be answered. When I'm painting my own thing, you've got to find a good picture. You've got to do painting design. And listen, guess what? Painting design is a whole new subject. Painting design is a whole new subject. You've got picture patterns and center of interest and where you put the horizon line. And there's so much involved in creating a painting that looks right. I see all kinds of people because I look on the internet, I see all kinds of people doing some paintings, and they're painting what they're seeing, but they don't have a good painting design, so it doesn't work. And so you can study a painting. For instance, if you wanted to do a still life, go find one of the still lifes that Monet or Van Gogh or any of the greats did. Go find a still life, and then set up your own still life with your own junk, but light it the way they lit theirs. Study what other people have done, because it's a study. The painting design is a study. Painting design is a study. Portraiture is a study. All this stuff is a study. What I try to show people on Ginger Cook Live is all the different techniques used. So when you start creating your own pictures, see how we've kept this side cool, this side warm? Isn't that kind of neat, right? By the way. So when you do that, you're saying that so that when you create it, you have an understanding of why you're doing it. What color goes next to what, and where you're putting it. Okay. Now, I got to put we got to do a little purple island of Dr. Moreau out here. Okay. I think we need a little purple island back out here on our horizon line, which we said was right here, right? We said this was our horizon line right there. That's where we said it was. Here's our little island back here like this. Okay, alright. Now, okay, so that's good. Now it can't be just one color. So it's got to have a little light and dark color to it. So we'll add a little white to it, give it a little purple. Light and dark purple. Okay, there's our little island. Let's see if I can zoom in. And let's see, we want a little bit of light color. So if you're going to do, I would say, like for instance, look at a photo that you think is pretty nice and try doing that. Just try doing the photo and then seeing where you can't improve on it. What could you do to make it better? Understand paint order, which goes first. Okay, here's our little. Okay, we gotta get cracking with this sunset here. Let's get some dark orange here. I got to be able to see the difference between my ocean and my sky. We've got to be able to put that in there too. Let's do a little bit of ocean line here like that. All right. Okay, so there's our that's all right. We've made a little island back there. We have now something like this on an island, you wouldn't have trees or palm trees or something because it's too far away. That's one thing too, is you've got to figure out the scale of stuff that you're putting in here. When you're putting in something like this, you've got to figure out your scale. What could you see from this far away? And you wouldn't see much. you absolutely wouldn't see much. But what I could see maybe is what I could do is I could exaggerate the yellow now, maybe in the water. Maybe, let's see, I need to put new white out. My white's all been contaminated. So yeah, take your camera with you everywhere. Everyone's got a camera with their cell phone nowadays. Start taking pictures. Start taking pictures and looking at your pictures. Thinking about your picture patterns. And there's a book. What was the name of that book I tell everybody to buy? There's a cool book. John, do you remember? It's Acrylic. Tell everybody to get this book. I'm just kind of exaggerating my water a little bit here. And did I mention that yellow only paints over white? So if I want to increase I want to do a bigger, more dramatic reflection in the water. It's called, what's it called? Did you see it? I have it on Pinterest. There's this book under books I recommend on Pinterest. And it really talks about painting design. And it's a must read for everybody. It's on Ginger Cook Live, all one word, on Pinterest, and you look under books I recommend. Can't think of it. I tell all my students to get that book and read it, because this lady just breaks down really well how you need to do certain simple secrets to better painting, and you just start with that so that you get your designs right. Because if your lines are going off the wrong way, it won't be a good painting. It doesn't matter how well you paint it if your design isn't right. See, and that's kind of it's an interesting thing. Like that. Now I'm going to just come back here, and I think I'm going to lighten up this on the top edge of this rock wall. I don't like that orange. That I don't like it at all. And don't be afraid. Just practice. Just paint something and see what happens. You know how many thousands of paintings I've done in my life? Thousands and thousands of paintings. Thousands of paintings, and the more you do it, the better you get. It's like anything else. Again, if you painted Starry Night better than Vincent van Gogh, nobody would care, because he already thought it up. And by the way, everybody hated it when he painted it. Did you know that? Everybody hated it. He didn't like it. He was afraid to show it to anybody. He didn't like it. It's the most famous painting he's ever done now, but at the time he did it, he didn't like it. And sometimes you're your worst judge of your own artwork. It's like the person that doesn't want to join the country club where they'd be allowed to be a member, that they'd have them as a member, okay? Sometimes you can be your worst judge of your own artwork. And this is why I recommend, that one of these services we offer on our website is personal art coaching. Because sometimes I'll have someone say, well, I don't really like this, and they've done a wonderful job on their painting. It's really good, but they don't, it's hard to see it, okay, when they've done it. Ooh, see, this is what happens when you have paint all over your hands. You get it everywhere. Here, let's darken this back up here. Okay, so now we're going to talk a little bit about glazing. I think I still want to lighten up the front of these rocks here and make this a little bit more exaggerated. I think I will do I'm going to give us a bigger archway here, like that, coming across here like that. Let's give us a bigger archway here like this, kind of so we have a little bit more room. And let's just pull this way. Okay, remember, you don't want to lose all your darks either. So if you have to, you started with dark, but you can come back and you can add darks, okay? So don't worry if you've lost all your darks. You can come back and you can dry brush over some more darks. So if you started with the darks and then you lost them, it's acrylics, you can't screw this up, see? So I'm putting a few little darks over here like this, kind of darkening this edge like this. And these two colors right here don't read well. Right, like this. This doesn't read as well as I'd like. So I have to change that. what I'm talking about is if you just, I've got to either put a little white or a little something. I've got to exaggerate this a little bit right there like this. The edge of this. Let's change brushes. Okay, there we go. I love these. People ask me, what kind of brushes do you buy? I love these ruby satin silver angle brushes. Absolutely my favorite. I've had so much control over them. There we go, like that. There's a little bit of that. Then we'll put a little orange like this next to it. But you want painting design and all that stuff. You want all that good stuff. There we go. Okay, I'm going to say something like that happened. And then I'm going to take a little cad red here. Just put a little on the outside of this. Come up here with a little light line. Like that. Now I'm going to exaggerate the light in little places. I know, I think we're pretty close to finished, except I'm still not loving this right here. Everybody says, yeah, but I still don't love that. And that's because I don't like these two too close together. So maybe I'll put some blue back. I'll put my night sky back. And this is what I love about acrylics, is this was watercolor. It would be the next, you just have to start again. Okay, so I'm going to put a little bit of blue back here like this, next to these rocks. Just put a little bit more blue back in the sky, like that. Now see how that kind of helped the, let's see, it's ultramarine blue. Let's just put a little bit back that way. Now this is where you'd use water. Now you see, somebody said, when do you use water? Well, if I wanted to spread this, and I wanted it more of a glaze, then I'd put a little water on my brush. But we're talking little tiny bits of water, not just dive the brush in. Again, so much of it depends on your paint you're using, though. In all fairness, just depends on the kind of paint you're using, and then that really kind of really helps you appreciate what you're doing. And let's just pull this dark rock up here like this. There we go. So that's our. I think I'm going to make these rocks a little bit taller. I'm going to bring this one up so we don't confuse them with those other rocks over here. See, I don't want it to be confused with the island. So we're going to say, here's our dark rock again up here like this. Okay. So now I'll put the highlight on that rock. All right, another question, John. Okay, so the question was, how do you decide when to turn on the, about how much white to put on a painting to turn on the lights. Sometimes you're turning off the lights, you're not just turning them on, okay? First off, we'll start with that, okay? You want to be turning on, you're turning on or off the light. So you're gonna say there's a light source and it's kind of bouncing around here, and you're gonna let the eye sort of follow it. Okay, maybe I'll put a little bit right there. Now, I have a reference photo, and most of the time your reference photo is fine. The reason this got a little screwy is because I changed it. But you see, in this photo, this light is way down here. If you put this in here, that'll take your eye right off the canvas. And so a new painter might put this light rock in, but you wouldn't want it there, because this is your center of interest. Unless we added a flower pot or a bird or something, we could have added a bird in here or something. We could have added something else. But right now we're saying that the sunset, because we're keeping this pretty simple, we're saying the sunset is our center of interest. So we don't want to bring the eye off the canvas. We want to keep it up toward the center. We want to bring your eye back up to the center of interest. So sometimes what you have to do is actually turn off colors. In other words, you might come up, say with this right here. See where I've got it pretty light right there? I might come up with some ultramarine blue. Now this is water, I'm going to show you. And just come over this one with a little water, like this is called glazing. And I might just tone that one down, or tone this one down, like that, because that's too bright, and I don't want to bring my eye over there. So I could glaze over the whole picture on this side with a little ultramarine blue. And you see how I'm toning down these rocks? Just like, so I'm turning off the lights on this side, so I'm keeping the lights on this side, so it's not such a busy painting. See? And all I did was just, now this is where you use the water, or I could use glazing medium. Glazing medium is shiny. And again, some people like real shiny pictures and other people don't. But now look, I'm just doing a little ultramarine blue and water, and look how I've turned off the lights on this side of the picture. Alright, and I've kept them on this side, and then I might want to turn some more on over here. Okay, so my brightest color is going to be Cad Yellow Medium and Cad Red Medium. So maybe I want to come here like this. Let's see, wrong brush. Let's get the little one. And maybe I want a little bit brighter light right there. So I could put a little white and yellow, maybe. And again, when you're using lots of colors, you've got to make sure that you've got your brush clean and you've got clean white somewhere. That's kind of a key too. Alright, so let's just try that. Let's just try a little bit of white. Cad Yellow Medium, Cad Red Medium, and a little white. And let's just come right up here like this and lighten up this rock right here like this. Just tap on some light. And I want to lighten this one up right there. See how, look what that did. Look how that yellow just lightened that up. And I might take a little yellow on here like that and lighten this up. Like this, coming around in the inside of this. That's got a little, there was some red that wasn't dry, so I'm lighting that up. Okay, and then I might say that the inside of this side is darker. So I might come on this side of it and say that this is our darker side of our rock, right here like this. I'm going to turn my paintbrush over sideways like this, because I want to be able to get it pretty right, make sure I've got this straight. Say darken this side. Okay, so I've made this sort of little shallow area in here, like that. So there's our little arch. And I still think that there would probably be, and you know, we're just, again, you're playing with it. You're saying, where's our lights? Where's our darks? Where would it be if I put that one up? Does it not read well if I put too much? You know, if you lighten it up too much, sometimes it doesn't read. So even though it might technically be there, you might leave it out. Then I just put that back because I want that darker. Where my little ledge is coming across here like that, next to that rock. So I'm saying that's a high rock and it kind of got that, but maybe not so much this one. So maybe I'll tone this one down. So anyway, this has been a fun week. I don't know that we're going to be doing a class next Monday because we'll let you know. We're going to do something tomorrow night at. I'm going to just tone this one down a little bit. At about 7:30 tomorrow night, we're going to be doing. What are we doing tomorrow night, John? This is what we're doing. Something fun. We're doing this. I thought it would be nice to talk, as we got into the matter of oceans. We're going to be doing this ocean trail tomorrow night. Talk a little bit about water and sky, and it's kind of this flower, kind of hiking trail for those of you who live in places where you get to go hiking. I think we're going to be doing that tomorrow night live. Those do not stay up on YouTube, but they will be up during the live class. Okay, so I'm going to, again, sort of darkening up some of this up here like this. Let's bring these rocks up a little bit, darken them up. I think for this part, John, for the most part, I'm going to just call this painting done. I could probably spend a few more hours on it. Quite frankly, I really could, but I think for the purpose of how you blend in dry brush colors, I think we've kind of explained that pretty well. Don't you think so? What do you think? Well, John that's it. He says another 20-minute class and an hour and a half. He doesn't see how I do it. Well, I lost a little bit of our ocean here, but I don't mind the fact that there's some blue here in the water like this. Don't want to get it too carried away. But there's our picture, and you know, you wouldn't put a sailboat, you wouldn't put anything on here because these rocks are so busy, you want to keep it done. I don't know which one you like better. Maybe there's one you like. John likes the second one. Everybody likes the second one, and that's because, yeah, see, and this is what I'm talking about. So then, and there's this lady who wrote this book called The 12 Mistakes That People Make with Watercolor, right? And her thing was, and I read it because I thought, there's probably some acrylic mistakes in there too, So what mistakes? Okay, so now see, I'm changing it to blue because we're into the blue tones, right? Because if it's light down here, we're now in the shadow. Does that make sense? And she said that she thought what a person ought to do is do the same painting about 10 times, which would make me crazy. It's tough enough to do it twice. She wants you to do it about 10 times. And then her thinking behind that is by the 10th time, you're going to be so loose and free that you'll finally just give up and do something fun. Just do it about 10 different ways and see it. Now I'm going to take a little ultramarine blue and just glaze over that. Like that. Just tone that back. All right, we're going to call that a painting, you guys. I hope that was okay. I hope that was fun to watch. Fun to do. Oh, all right. Yeah, so the sunset, the brush I use all the time. I have a series of these brushes. These are ruby satin silvers, and they come in different sizes, and they're bright brushes, and they're long handle. And this is an 8. This is probably a 4. And I even have a bigger one than that. It depends on the size of the canvas, how big your brush is. Guess what? All right. And so I use these ruby satin silvers, and I like these so much. And then then they make a smaller one, kind of like this, but just short handle. And the short handles are less money because they charge you more for the wood. And when you get into the smaller sizes, you might as well buy the short handles. But the problem with all these brush people make me insane is that the numbers don't say the same. I've kind of worn off the numbers on this, but this is probably it's just like what is this, John? Quarter inch wide brush. Quarter-inch wide brush, and it's squared off. That's why they call them brights. And I paint with these, and then I paint with these nifty little angles. And now Simply Simmons makes a good little angle brush, and they're very good. And I don't like them as well, but they're a good little angle brush, and they're really, for the money, you can't beat them. But I'll tell you what, if you can pot for one of these, you're going to love it. Victoria, for instance, I have a bunch of people told me that, oh my God, I can't believe how good these brushes are. These are fantastic, and they really are. This little quarter-inch angle brush is fantastic. Quarter, 3/8 inch, half-inch. These are fantastic, and they're really great for detail. Just absolutely fabulous for detail. So, I've got to tell you that I really, really like those a lot. So anyway, that's our picture for the day, and let's see if you want to do that. And I like these little pens to sign them with. And I get these on, nobody pays me to say this. This is on Amazon. We've got a link on our website to these. They're called the Uniball Sigma white ink pens, and they'll smear unless you dry them with a hairdryer, but then they don't smear. They're very nice for detail, which is kind of cool. Okay, so I think that's look what happened. All our paint's gone. That was good. All right, so all our paint's gone. It must be. Lesson's over. The paint's gone. So if you go to our website, this is the release this week, teaching you how to just take one color of paint. It doesn't have to be black and white. Just take white, and then try to do something and just neutral tones like that to learn shading. That's the lesson for this week. Next week, coming up Thursday, every week on Ginger Cook Live, we have new classes, and we do 1 cookie to 2 cookie lessons, which are really easy, and then we get harder for people who are more advanced and have painted a little longer, but you can start off. Nothing is ever that's hard. Here's our Tortuga Surf. Isn't that fun? That's going to be released this Thursday for our members, and then the week after that we're doing this flower, and again we're going to want to know how to do blending, and the same thing we did with the branch we're going to do with this flower. So these are all some of the lessons that are happening on gingercooklive.gallery, And we think that that's a fun thing to do. We invite you to try. Come try us if you haven't. Try this. Come try us for 9 days and see how it goes. And John is our computer expert, and he'll help you. You're not good with computers, he'll help you. He's marvelous with computers. I'm going to take this. Let's get rid of the blue now. There. Shall I put them both together so you can kind of compare it to see which one you want to do? Put them side by side. Let you see which one you wanted to paint. Part of me, I'm telling you, John, I could just keep going. This is so terrible. Part of me wants you, talking about chasing the eye and chasing the eye. Part of me said, what would happen if I just did that? That was Thursday's. Tortuga Surf was Thursday's release. I took it away. All right, this is Thursday's picture, you guys. This is our new release for Thursday, Tortuga Surf. Upside down. Here, let me just do that. Tortuga Surf is our new release for Thursday at Ginger Cook Live. That'll be the Thursday release. The hands were last week's. Okay. That's our release. This is really simple and fun to do. And this is where you can start, put in your own patterns for your towels. Maybe you want to put in 3 surfboards and not all these clothes. Why does it have to say Tortuga Surf? Why couldn't it say Marcia's Beach, Marcia's Cove, or make up a title and start personalizing these. These are fun when you start personalizing your paintings. I love that about things with buildings and signs, where you can personalize your stuff. That is absolutely good. And then the Wave and Water release. The Wave and Water is this one. This is our release. When's that going to be up, John? It normally is up on the 1st, but it's my fault. I didn't get it done in time. And so that's our Wave and Water. It's being uploaded now, so our Wave and Water people are going to get this one, which I think is pretty cool. This is a real mill in Virginia. I like to use 3 different photos to create this, reference photos, to create this picture, which I think is kind of cool, and step by step on that. And I'm telling you what, any of you guys, this 30 by 40 would be such a killer painting, big, huge, which is so fabulous. I just hope somebody would make this fabulously big. And I think this is a good one to just, practice your sunsets on. Don't you guys think so? There, see? Look, see? Want to see how I'm chasing the light? See what I just did? Chase the light. Boop, 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 boop. Chase the light. We chase the light through it. And chase the light through it. That's it. Chase the light. And then we'll just stop right there. I have to be done. I'm out of paint. It's all over my hands instead. And incidentally, I'm not dying from any of the paint. It's all fine. I just want you to know that some people are very worried that some have to get this paint on themselves. But of course, you could paint with gloves if you were worried about it. But I'm telling you what, just don't eat it. Don't eat the Clorox under the sink. Don't eat the paint, and you're fine. I guess there's some crazy rumors running around, and just got to tell you that you just try not to eat it. I don't think you're supposed to eat anything. I'm not even sure you're supposed to eat the food we eat, But I think you're more in danger from preservatives and cookies. All right, so that's it. Shall I zoom in a little bit, you guys? Anybody? Would that be helpful? Now's the time to rewind. Okay, try. Oh no, you don't have to. No, it's staying up. You don't have to rewind, but it does do. Doesn't it do some? It goes through a weird thing. You can still play it. It still plays, but it does go through this sort of weirdness thing, where because once we're doing this live, and then YouTube has to do some sort of weird thing, and at some point we'll go back in and edit and cut all this weird talking out. All right, John and I will do that. We'll edit this. All right, thanks for watching, you guys. Have a wonderful day.